Okay. All right. I think I'm live now. I do this every week. I think I'm live now. I think I'm live now. But yeah, I am definitely live now. So gonna just let the group know. Now live. Okay. That now live. And okay. All right. So I'm excited for you guys being on here. Hey Darren. Hey Mark. Good to see you guys on here. 3:40 a.m. Man, this guy's really into it. I really appreciate that. What time did the sun wake up where you're at, Darren? The sun wake up. What time did the sun come up? The sun is always awake until it dies out as a star, I guess. Whew. Wow, 9 a.m. That's a while. How far north are you? I can't remember where you said you were last time. I think Belgium. I can't remember right now. Yeah, that's really intense. I mean, even for us in Chicago, we're in sort of the north side of the country, and I think for us on at worst, sunrise is around like 8 a.m. Oh, okay, Belarus. All right. Well, at least I got the B part right. Hey, Barker, good to see you in here as well. All right, all right, all right. Uh, oh, Denver, how you doing over there, Denver? Uh, okay, so it's 5:39 in I guess U.S. time. Sorry about my dog. Give it a moment. He thinks somebody's at the door and he doesn't care what's going on. So I'm gonna have to check on that before we get started. But there's a couple announcements coming up. The first is that we're gonna be. No, give me a second, guys. 30 seconds. All right. So sorry about that. Quarter nothing at the door. Okay, so the first announcement I have is that I'm really excited. We're going to be interviewing Paul Joseph on Friday, this upcoming Friday at noon my time. So let's see if it's 3:40 a.m. for you, Darren. Now, then that would be about 9 p.m. your time. So 9 p.m. your time, which is a lot more manageable, I think, than 3 a.m. And so we're going to be interviewing Paul Joseph. Paul still has a full-time job, but he launched this company actually in late 2020. And he is going to be chatting. But the cool thing about his story is that he's in Canada. He runs a 24/7 operation, and he has already passed $40,000 a month. So we're going to be interviewing him. Should be a cool interview. Actually, it should be. I think he's beyond 40, but I'll just say he's at $40,000 a month plus. So he's still got a full-time job. So basically, he's been running this business part-time. Right? There's a lot of you that are wondering whether something like this, can seem like a big undertaking. It can seem, I guess, intimidating at first. And so, knowing that there's somebody out there in the flesh that still has a full time job and is at the point where the majority of people would actually quit their job, and he's still growing and he's still excited, that's a great thing. I think he intends on potentially leaving when he hits around $100,000 a month in sales. So everybody had their different exit point. Mine certainly was a lot lower than that in terms of if I had a job. But it's going to be a fun interview. Again, we're doing that this upcoming Friday, the 31st at noon. Now that I think about it, Darren, that's almost New Year's for you, so I don't know how badly you want to be on that. But it is a recorded interview, so you can watch it when you like. But I wanted to close out the year strong with an awesome interview, so we'll be doing that. Okay. Oh, nice, 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 nice. Yeah, that's what I thought, Darren. So a lot of people that are going to be, chilling out and partying. But at noon, hey, Barker, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer that first. But I guess it's 6 minutes in. Let's just get started. Before I get started, though, I wanted to again outline the questions that I'll be answering. And I always forget the wording and sometimes the questions themselves. So I'm just going to pull it up in the email that I wrote and sent earlier. Let's see, what am I talking about today? The first thing I'm talking about today is reflections on what it's like to own a call center. Like to own a call center. The second thing I'll talk about is how I feel about the call center industry and where it's headed. The call center industry and where it's headed. And then the third thing I'll be talking about is plans, my personal plan for 2022. So I'm excited to talk about these things. I feel like they're the types of questions, when you're looking to sort of reflect on the year and then sort of transition into the new year. Obviously, the last 2 years have been sort of crazy for just about all of it. So I think it's a good way to sort of close out the year. Okay, so again, for those of you that are on here for the first time, welcome. I'm glad you're here. The purpose of these calls in general, I try to do them every week around right now. And the purpose is that, we're on this live call. I have a few questions that I'm prepared to answer, but for those of you that hop in and you're able to hop in, for those of you watching the recording right now, you can ask whatever questions you want. There's no stupid question, and I'll prioritize answering those because it is meant to be a live question and answer session. So Barker asked a great question. What was the size of the majority of the companies you worked with when you had Vicky Virtual? So great question. The simple answer for that is that our average client that we charge in terms of revenue. So the average revenue or, our average revenue per client was roughly $275. So it always hovered somewhere around 260 to up to about 300, but 275 is where it landed most often. Now, some of our students, I would say honestly, the majority of them are trending higher than that now. A lot of our students that have been hitting the ground running, they've been sort of focusing on larger clients, and by larger clients, I mean an average size of say $300 to $500. There's one client, or there's a few students that have clients that are pretty large. There's a few students that have landed clients and served clients that are larger than any other client I ever served. So Vicky Virtual's largest client ever was 10,000 minutes a month, and we charge $9,000 a month for that. So there's already a few students that have surpassed that in terms of client side. We certainly got some inquiries occasionally, but in terms of who we served and who we were able to charge, that's what it came down to. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so Darren asked a great question, which is how easy, hard is it to get clients in the States if you're not based in the States? Also, does it make a difference to the client? Okay, So again, Darren, you're in Belarus. So, I don't think it makes much of a difference at all. The reality is that now the world, and if one of the few actually truly good things to come out of this pandemic, right? Um, the world is a lot more used to, if they weren't already used to it, like pretty much everyone that's white collar and particularly business owner, they're used to things being remote. They're used to engaging in business transactions and doing business with people virtually now. There's some people that insisting on in-person stuff, and then they were forced not to tour for almost 2 years now, for the majority of that time. And so they've gotten used to the software, they've gotten used to whatever they need to get used to. In many cases, change the structure of their company to accommodate this sort of forced change in the work environment, working virtual. So what that means is, once you get over the hump of saying, oh, okay, I can work with people virtually, right? Because that's a big thing. Then you cannot. It's not much harder to get over the hump. Well, if they're virtual anyway, um, do they have to be in the U.S.? Uh, oh, so they're lucky again. My wife just walked in. Say hi to the wife. Hi, wife. Okay, so there probably won't be any barking from the puppy at this point. So sorry about that. So yeah, once people get over the whole sort of virtual thing, which pretty much everyone has, um, it's a matter of whether they're okay with, um, you know, whether your agents are US based or not. And frankly, the majority of people that are initially apprehensive about it, um, they just care about how significant or strong the accent is, whether there's a language barrier. And some people get as specific as worrying about whether there's a cultural barrier. I think that a good way to get over that hump when you're reaching out to clients, and I've been instructing some people on this previously, is if you have a website, maybe have a few call um, example recording. And if you have a long term, you don't have clients that there's you can just do a couple of role play calls and record them with your agent that you've hired, right? And you just do a scenario. Um, and no one had done this yet that I know of. But one of the smart things I think is to, have different pages for each industry, and then have, excuse me, all the industries you intend on serving. So let's say there's like four of them that you're like targeting or you want to sort of communicate with the most. You can have it be like legal, and then like finance, accounting, and then like marketing companies, and then like general small businesses, right? And so what you can do on each one of those pages is, like little landing pages or tab pages, is have a few recorded calls that fit that industry. So if it's a legal, industry you're targeting for a potential client, have a couple calls where someone calling into ABC law firm, right? So that your potential attorney client can hear what a typical call is like from one of your agents, that's located wherever they're located. And once they can, sort of get a sense of what it's like for those offshore agents to take a call, if you can quell whatever doubts or fears they might have about that from them being able to listen and presumptively like those recordings, then that handles that objection a little bit before it even comes up. And if you've done that, also, like, let's say you have an initial conversation with someone, you can send them a follow-up email with recording. You can mention that on the call and say, hey, if it's something you're apprehensive about, I'm happy to send you a few recordings. And then also you can talk about the free trial and all that, not having to commit financially unless you're happy doing the free trial. So it's definitely very doable. There's students that are out of the country that are landing U.S. clients. My staffing company partner, he's in Bosnia, and he's landing U.S. clients left and right. He's got double-digit agents now, and he started last year. So definitely doable. Okay. Um. Okay. 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 Darren. Oh no, Mark asked, when you bill clients, did you invoice them and wait for payment, or did you have credit card on file? Mark, as soon as the person signs up, even if it's just starting trial, we tend to have card on file. Now, I will say a decent amount of students have been doing just sign up and then we'll collect your card info at the end of trial, which is fine. I didn't do it this way. So I couldn't really instruct on it, right? And one of the beautiful things about the tribe, once you're a paid student, is that there are people that, once they learn what they should be doing, they sort of improvise just a little bit, right? They're like, you know what, I feel like it will be fine if I don't ask for the card number. So some people didn't ask for a card, and it doesn't seem to have a negative impact. I like to have the peace of mind of having the card on file. So long story short, we never invoiced them. We always had the card on file. Um, if it's the conclusion of a trial, though, we always make sure that they understand what their usage looks like, what their plan's going to look like based off of that usage, and therefore what their billing is anticipated to be before we ever charge them and get their either verbal or written okay on email or over the telephone or something. If it's a starter plan and someone's going to be a starter and you have the card, we tend to just charge them at the end of trial, and we never really had issues with that. That's not a luxury that you have if you did not collect that info, but it is nice to have that relationship established. I think it could only be helpful. But again, long story short, we didn't invoice. Now, there are a few students that have some large clients, especially once you hit the mid four figure or 5 figure client or multiple 5 figure client. There are going to be some situations where you're going to have to invoice them and then you work out terms with them. I think you should be doing something hopefully like net 7. Net 7 means that you invoice them and then it's due 7 days later. Net 7. I would never, ever in life go beyond net 30. Okay, and that's only if it's a large account, and that's only if your company's a decent size, was you're able to absorb the impact of them deciding to pay a while later. Some of these larger companies have. It's not that they don't want to pay, but they have these billing departments that may or may not have competent or on top of it people within the department. So they might receive your invoice and then they just get around to it whenever they get around to it. They don't put a lot of emphasis on these things. And that kills certain small businesses. So you want to make sure that you avoid that pitfall. But yeah, invoicing when it comes to these small businesses is completely unnecessary. And, it's just too many steps. Okay, so Bark, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer one of the questions that I wrote. Bark asked, how can we differentiate when marketing for new clients, being cheaper than in-house employees and saving them workplace is being used so much? One of the things we go over in the course is, one of the videos is your unique value proposition. So that starts to talk about, how you can start to think about and ideate what's going to be your unique selling proposition. The more you learn about the industry, the easier it is to figure out exactly what your differentiator is going to be. I can't sit here and tell you something because whatever I say on the call, then someone else can just, can launch with that, right? A differentiator is something that you're going to have to come up with yourself. So the only thing I can really say is, the more you learn about this, the more sort of angles you can figure out in terms of what the differentiators can be what differentiators might make sense versus ones that, aren't sort of valuable differentiator to your prospect. So I hate to pawn the course, so to speak, but it's just one of those things that it just can't be answered in the contact. Um, and the reality also that being cheaper than in-house employees and saving them time is good because you don't have to differentiate necessarily between other virtual receptionist companies. You just need to let them know that you're a virtual receptionist company that exists. Again, the timing that we have right now, the benefit we have right now, that our timing is good. The majority of business owners don't know what a virtual receptionist company is yet. And very many are not very familiar with answering services in general, let alone the virtual receptionist initial component. And so what that means is that simply introducing them to the virtual receptionist angle is already a sexy angle for a lot of prospects, right? Um, so I think you don't need to go far beyond that when frankly there's so many businesses, a vast majority really, that aren't even aware that virtual receptionist companies are an option for their business. So your real job isn't going to be figuring out your differentiator. It's going to be, how do I get people to know that I exist in general, consistently, reliably, and then, having a general sort of best foot forward in terms of your marketing, how you're presenting yourself, your messaging, and being able to close the deal. Okay. So I hope that's helpful, Barker. Okay, so reflections on what it's like to own a call center. I'm gonna write that down. 22 minutes. Okay, so reflections on what it's like to own a call center. So the first thing I'll say about this, and I don't know, I don't want to ramble on too much about this, but the first thing I'll say about owning a call center is that it's really nice to be in a space that a bunch of people aren't in yet. It's not something that everyone is talking about. And it's not like that hot thing that, everyone and their mother can't wait to try. And so, you feel like you're sort of doing something in secret, so to speak. You feel like you're sort of working on the gem of an industry, the gem of a business, because you know that a call center, once you understand this, it really hits you that you know that you're working on one of the few things that just about every business needs, and the majority of them haven't conquered yet, and that you have the dynamic of them paying you every single month for it, and you have the dynamic of if a company uses you and is happy with you, then they're going to stick around for a while. There's a lot of different things out there that are just software based because it's quicker and faster. It's not labor intensive. A lot of people have been staying away from labor intensive companies, but labor intensive companies have been making a comeback seriously in the last few years, right? You see cleaning company, people talking about that left and right. You see people talking about different local service businesses, painting, HVAC. You see people talking about trade school instead of finishing college education, so traditional college. But people don't talk about call centers. And, frankly, the whole local service component, you're serving usually residential, so business to consumer. But in this regard, you're serving business to business. And business to business is always a fun space to be in, as long as you're able to sell them something that is valuable. So when you wake up in the morning, when you go to sleep at night, you're in this space of, man, I'm really glad once you get profitable and stuff, you're like, I'm really glad that I'm in this space. I don't have to worry about whether or not my clients are, getting value out of the service. The other cool thing is that there really aren't other companies that are just so much better than anyone, right? If you're not serving well, if you're far below par, then yeah, that's going to be okay. But if you're doing your thing in terms of answering the phone well, your agents are, helping their callers, a Ruby receptionist isn't much better than you. Like at best, they're not like the largest, most expensive competitor. There's not going to be like this gap in service quality, right? When you start a software company, you first launch software, you might have a few features that are catered for a very specific niche and potentially, long-term larger market that you want to serve. So you might have a few features, and you're charging $50 a month for it, and then to your horror, one day you come across some competitor that's charging $50 a month, and they have every single feature that you intended to do in the next 5 years already. And they have a large customer base. And it happened because, you already spent a bunch of money and excitement and effort. And it's just like you have to do so much to catch up. But in this case, once you have agents that are serving their clients well, you're already there. You're there. So someone can't swoop in and just steal all your business from you. There's not some company that's just coming in and is suddenly able to pay humans $0 an hour. Robotics are not something that people in general want to talk to often enough to ever put you out of business. There is no robotic based service or AI based service, answering service, that is premium, that the caller would think is treating them in a way that makes them feel appreciated. People, when they have their small businesses, they don't think in terms of, oh man, I want to put my best foot forward and create the best first impression for my potential client. Let's sign up with a robot. They want people that are warm and sensitive and caring, right? And so the point is that you can be completely new and not have a whole bunch of money and only have a few agents and only have the feature of being able to answer the phone and then the things that I talk about in the course, which you can do at launch, and be able to compete on a service level with any competitor. The only thing that some of the larger companies have is a mobile app. I can tell you right now that very few people ever care about a mobile app. Some do, but that percentage isn't the percentage that stops you from being successful versus not successful. And so that sort of fact, right? Those facts, one, that you're serving clients in a way that's meaningful and valuable to them. Two, that you're in, this space that hasn't been trampled yet and probably won't be for a while. And three, when that someone can't just come in and like suddenly be the Google of the industry and just sweep up and vacuum up all the clients, it just can't happen. And the way that I like to think about this, I haven't said this in a while, it's sort of like a large city in the restaurant industry, right? I'm in Chicago. I don't know how many restaurants we have, but I know it's over like 5,000. So imagine, if we only had 3 restaurants. Yeah, there might be a bunch of locations, but say we only had 3 restaurants. That would be terrible. It's impossible for, it's pretty much impossible for, someone to come in and then have a bunch of Starbucks. And, it's like, well, Starbucks is the big coffee provider. They own coffee now, right? And no one can come in and have a coffee shop because Starbucks is there. Someone can't come in and say, hey, I'm McDonald's. Someone can't come in and say, hey, I'm this one steakhouse. I own all of the market share for steakhouses in Chicago. It's impossible. This market will always be fragmented. It will always be certain people that utilize, a variety of cuisines and a variety of restaurants within that one cuisine choice in the city. There will never be one restaurant unless we have some type of crazy dictatorship, right? Um, I don't know why I said that. But my point is that just like there's always going to be a crap load of different restaurant options to choose from, there's always going to be a crap load of different call center options to choose from. And so that should be very encouraging to you if you're someone new that's entering the space. Okay. So owning a call center, you can bank on it. Your goal is to, get started, get yourself profitable, and get yourself, in a space where you're growing and you have a future. That's the only thing you have to do. There's so many business opportunities where you can achieve those things and be wiped out. It's just, unless you wipe yourself out, it's just not going to happen in this industry. Okay. All right, so Mark asked a good question. Once signed up for the course, what is your thought on white labeling with Vicky or whoever, right? Until one gets to 7 to 10 grand a month in revenue to allow focus on marketing and then migrate them in-house. I think it's a great thought. There's certain students that are doing that. There's, one in particular, Lauren, that is in the middle still of migrating some of her clients, and she got well beyond 10 grand a month. She's in the multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And you don't have to use Vicky. Vicky is really good, but now there's some students that have grown their companies enough where they're offering white labeling as well. I think there's 3 of them now that are willing to do that. Okay, I think there's 3 that. No, there's at least 2 outside of just Vicky Virtual that currently offer white labeling and are serving other students. Relax your mind ask, what is white labeling? So white labeling, an example is okay, so if you ever go to Costco, they've got, different brands at Costco for like, let's say, I don't know, a bag of potato chips or bottles of water, and then they have the Kirkland brand. And so the difference between the Kirkland brand and, let's say Evian, I don't know, they might have the same manufacturer. This isn't a great example, but they might have theoretically the same manufacturer, but Costco has their own brand, and the manufacturer is just putting out bottles of water, not attached to one brand. They're just a manufacturer. And so, you can have the Evian brand, which is the one that people know about, versus Costco, which, unless you're a Costco shopper, you're not going to know about it. But it's the exact same manufacturer, it's the exact same product. But since Costco is selling it, people within Costco are purchasing from what they think of as the Kirkland brand, and so it's a Kirkland product. And so on the call center side, it's like Vicky Virtual, answers phone for different companies. So when Vicky Virtual white labeled, it enables someone new to come in and not have to hire their own agent, but they're able to use the same product that Vicky Virtual uses, which is the agent. So you're able to utilize, Vicky Virtual's agents without the Vicky Virtual brand and name attached to those agents, and of course paying for the phone system and stuff. So you can sign up as, relax your mind receptionist, and you'll sign up clients and bring in that revenue. And say you charge them $150, and then Vicky Virtual charges you whatever the wholesale pricing is. Say it's $100. And so when the Vicky agent answers the phone, they're acting as if they're Relax Your Mind agents. And so your personal clients of Relax Your Mind receptionist won't know that it's really Vicky Virtual Receptionist agents. It'll be your company, on the storefront, and you're just serving a client. And so what happens there is that you're not dealing with employees or payroll, you're not dealing with managing the phone system and all that. You're just bringing in revenue. And say you bring in $10,000 a month in revenue, and then you're paying Vicky $8,000, or you take your $2,000 in profit, and you literally the only thing you're doing is marketing. And then once you get to a certain size, what some people do is they'll say, okay, I want all this revenue, so I'm going to now hire agents and set up my own phone system, and then you're still serving no client because you charge them directly. Vicky doesn't charge them, and then you're not paying Vicky anymore, and then your cost are whatever the agent spend and the phone system is. So that can be very helpful for people that have smaller budgets starting off that don't want to hire agents, day one because they're dealing with payroll and they don't want to pay up front for the phone system and that type of stuff. So yeah, Mark, there's a bunch of people that like that idea and are working on that idea. There's one that I know of that had not only done it and built themselves up, but also migrated over, and that's Lauren. Um, and Lauren Hazel, and you can check out her interview. I honestly can't remember how much she specifically covers in her interview, but that's what she did. And also, she's like one of the few people that's on like literally every single tribe weekly call. So once you're in, you can talk to her all the time, and she can walk you through the best way to get that done. Um, so I hope that answers your question. Relax as well as Mark. I'm realizing over the course of the week, I really don't talk uh, that often in terms of like a stream of consciousness. One, because of the pandemic. Two, I'm at home alone uh, until the wife gets back, or talking to the dog, and so my voice has been getting tired. So I apologize for that, guys. Okay, so the second question is, how do I feel about the call center industry and where it's headed? So that is 36 minutes in. 37 minutes in. 36. It says 37 minutes. Um, Buck, I'll answer that in just a second. That's a great question. Um, so I'll make this quick. How do I feel about the call center industry and where it's headed? I recently, man, I forgot about this until right now. I recently purchased a market research report on the call center industry and where it's headed, because I have my thoughts, but at the end of the day, I only ran one call center company, and it wasn't some $1 billion force that generate data on every single the whole freaking industry. And call center is a very broad space. So I bought a market research report on the answering services industry within the US. I literally bought this like 2 weeks ago, so it's very fresh and relevant data. And the point is that uh, the market research, the data says that this industry is growing. It's going to be growing at a pretty rapid pace in the next few years. There's going to be like some type of explosion. Um, the pandemic has really created the foundation of a large shift. And I hate saying it like this. I hate being the guy that's like, oh, but it's just a reality. The pandemic created a situation where people are ready for remote work. Companies are going to slowly realize that in order to stay ahead, they need to sort of do things off. Uh, they need to outsource more, and the tried and true method from before, which was outsourcing the crappy answering services, is no good. So we're going to be looking for higher quality answering for their businesses. As more businesses within one industry is saving money and cost cutting because they don't have their own internal expensive call centers or internal expensive call takers, if they don't have an entire center built out, they're going to be figuring out ways to streamline. And so this industry is going to take off. This industry is going to become a lot more mainstream, and there's a lot going to happen. I haven't read the report yet, but I've looked at the highlights, and I'm telling you guys, your timing is unbelievable as far as what's going to be happening. So the time is now. Okay. Barker asked, if you have to choose only one industry, which one would that be? So there actually two industries. One is best for inbound, and one is best for outbound outreach in terms of trying to land clients. In terms of outreach, I would probably, if I didn't have experience in the call center industry, sorry, in the cleaning service industry, uh, say I never owned a cleaning company and therefore didn't know anything about it, then I would probably go after like accountants. Um, I would also actually still continue to go over after local service businesses in terms of early acquisitions of clients, only because there's so many of them and it's easy to get them on the phone. They either don't pick up and you leave a voicemail, or you're reaching the decision maker at a high percentage, like a very high percentage, because most of the businesses are pretty small and they're not run all that efficiently. And so the point is you're able to talk to a bunch of decision makers quickly. And, frankly, this type of service is a good fit for just about every single local service company in the entire country in on the planet. Um, and so, you got to pound the pavement, so to speak. You got to dial for dials. You got to do whatever you're going to do in terms of outreach. But the local service industry as a whole is a great way. Um, and that's actually secondary to my true first choice, which is Barca. If you have a specific industry that you have experience in, then that's the industry you go for. So that's priority number one. That's what I did. That's what the most successful students are doing in terms of those that are launching and creating traction, getting the 10, 5 figures a month, the quickest. Okay. Uh, but the second answer is, in terms of inbound leads, which industry do I prefer the most? And the industry that I prefer the most for inbound is legal because they're the easiest to serve. Lawyers are just really easy to serve and make and be happy. Every now and then, lawyers are pretty particular, as I'm sure everyone understands. But at the end of the day, all they're really asking for is for you to, take the call, get the information right. Which, if you don't have the right agents, I promise you that's easier said than done. And then forward the info to them. Um, and so the issue in terms of outbound for attorneys is that they're notoriously difficult to land a client in comparison to other industry if you're doing outreach. There's creative ways to go about landing them, but in terms of just a straight up cold outreach, attorney can be difficult. Every now and then, this is an incredible fit for that industry. So every now and then you get some of the younger ones that they get it. But, if you, for instance, cold call 100 lawyers versus cold calling a bunch of plumbing or painting companies, you're going to land more painters before you're going to land lawyers. But what I will say is that if you have 100 prospects searching you, more of them are gonna be lawyers than one specific local service business category. And again, once you land them, you'll be a lot happier. So that's my answer. I hope that's helpful for you. Okay, so I got about 10 more minutes. Um, and now I have my tribe call. So, there's 8 of you in here. Whoever's here, please, say hi. Do I prefer Darren asked, do I prefer cold calling outbound or incoming clients who pay more? Frankly, incoming clients are always going to be more fun and just better and less stressful. I mean, the reality is that I can, on a given day, I can do outreach or have a team member do outreach or a team do outreach, and they're reaching out to people and they're using their energy to cold outreach to people that may or may not say, hey, I want to hear you and talk to you, versus those that are inbound, meaning they're already in like the close to decision or buying stage. They're definitely happy to talk to you. They're asking you questions, and they're definitely probably a good fit for what you're doing. It's just a much easier transaction. The majority of the client 50 virtual ever landed, about 70% at least, were inbound. So the thousands of clients that we landed, including the ones that we eventually lost, the thousands of clients that we landed, at least 70% of them were inbound. Um, when it came to outreach, to the day I left, obviously we were doing outreach and we're, investing in that. And that's great. But the reason we got to the size we got to was because of inbound. And that's a combination of a lot of different sources. One is the SEO, two is reviews and such. Three is like random organic like blog posts and stuff, which is a sense SEO but really content marketing. Um, and then also word of mouth, which is really a form of inbound lead generation as well. Uh, and so Vicky Virtual wouldn't have gotten to where it got without the inbound component. And frankly, all of the students that have come through the program and are really starting to excel, all of them are generating inbound leads now. Every single one of them. So you start off with outbound to create momentum, and you really start to take off when the inbound starts being a component of your business. Um, okay, Barker asked, did you see in the report how much the share of the bigger company is in this industry? Yeah, Barker. So as I was saying earlier, this is like restaurant. There's never going to be a company that has a big part of the industry. It's not possible. It's just not possible. In the U.S. alone, there's about 1,500 answering companies, and we're doing about $3 billion in revenue between those companies, which is an average of 2 million. Actually, it came up as the average company size for $2.4 million. So that should be really exciting for all of you. The average, and I will screenshot that and show it at some point. The average answering service size in the US at least is $2.4 million. That is crazy. I mean, it's not like a giant company, but it's the average. So all you got to do is be average. You got a $2.4 million company. And so my point is that there aren't any billion-dollar companies in the $3 billion space. So, there's no one to think about. The largest one that I know of is Ruby Receptionist, but they actually might not be the largest. They're just the most publicized. But there's some old ones that have been around 30 years that have slowly worked their way up to the tens of millions and maybe the nine-figure level. Ruby is roughly at the nine-figure level now. So, if I had to guess, there might be one company that had 2 to 3% of the entire market. Maybe. But the majority of companies that established themselves are doing pretty good. Okay, relax. Darren, 200 to 300 calls a day, all industries. Yeah, if you do that, you're gonna win. I mean, I never did that many, and I won. So if you do that, for 3 months straight, you'll never be broke ever again. Okay, relax your mind. Can you land a government contract with a virtual call center? Just about every government contract. Okay, so if you've heard of a BPO, I'm sure if you start to do more research in the call center space, you'll hear of a BPO. The Philippines, like all of the call centers basically are BPO. That is business process outsourcing. And what that means is that answering calls is the business process. It's one of the main essential processes of a general business function. So that one of the processes is getting the phone answered, telecommunication, and so they're virtual, they're remote, they're not part of the company, and so they're landing these contracts left and right. Every single BPO that exists is a result of the contract. And when it comes to let's say U.S. based stuff, they tend to prefer companies that are also based in the U.S. When it comes to the government stuff. And yeah, I mean, when it's a government contract, either way it's remote, whether it is on premise in terms of people being at desk and in a centralized office or not. It happens with either type of company. The only thing that you can probably have a better chance of landing with the on-premise, like office-based type call center, is when you're dealing with like HIPAA type stuff or medical record, because they want some assurances that all of the data is going to be contained within the company and not get out. And it's much easier to do that when you have like these internal databases, these like intranets. Yeah, intranet instead of internet. I don't know exactly how it works, but when everything is like contained in the office, then it's just a lot easier. And so all the agents are on these like company-owned devices and not their own computers, and that gives more assurances to the government contract. Okay, but I do want to say, Barker, I do not talk about how to land government contracts in the court. I never had any interest in that. I think it's extremely stressful. And when it comes to government contract, the people that win them are the ones that do the lowest bid. And when you do the lowest bid, that means you have the smallest profit margin. Uh, and it becomes, frankly, a different business model from what we're running in the virtual receptionist space. When you do $1 million a year, I want you to profit at least 300,000 net, like in your pocket. Even if whether you take a salary or not, you need to be able to put $300,000 in your pocket at least if you're doing $1 million a year. Literally impossible if you have a government contract. At best, you'll be at $80 to $100,000 on $1 million, which I can tell you is not fun at all. You're doing a lot of work, but not a lot of money. So, contracts are great because they give you a lot of revenue really quickly, and you got revenue and employees and stuff. But okay, Vante, in Guyana, call centers are popping up within the last decade. None of them remote, though. Do you think starting a remote call center and hiring locals in a South American country is a good idea? Excuse me, Monte. There's a lot of people that are doing that. Guyana, I'm probably saying it wrong, but it probably, I guess it's not a big thing in Guyana, but there's a tremendous amount of South American virtual call centers that exist. The one thing you have to consider is the infrastructure of the agents, like the typical agent. When you hire these people, you need to make sure, hey, Lauren, good to see you on here. When you hire these people, you need to make sure that they, they have solid internet connection. And I know in certain countries, I think Guyana is like an island, right? My geography sucks right now. It is not an island. Okay, so that's a land. It's not an island, and so the infrastructure might be better. In the Philippines, it can be sort of tough, honestly, especially for individual agents because their internet is rough. Or even if it's technically pretty fast, it'll like go out on you a lot, and that'll be very difficult as you're trying to grow your company. But as long as you can hire agents that don't have an infrastructure issue, then it's great. I mean, South Americans there's a lot of them that speak really good English. The accents, if there, are usually very good. I mean, they sound like people like half of New York anyway, which that's what Americans are used to. And there's a lot of opportunity there. I mean, my sports book, I don't know if I should say this, but my sports book that I place bets on, I talk to people from Costa Rica every time, and I had to ask them, like, it took me a long time to figure out that they weren't in like New York. So, it's a great way to have lower payroll while also still really helping people. Let's say, I don't know if you're in Guyana, but you're still helping people just because their wages are lower. They're still making good money as long as you're paying them pretty well. And paying them pretty well or very well is still going to be significantly less than what it costs to employ people in the U.S. And people are people. Some people are like, well, I employ Americans. I used to think that way. All of my people at Vicky Virtual are always American. Um, but the reality of people are people. And when you're employing people, whether it's within the US or worldwide, you're going to feel good about it when you're helping improve their life. So, yeah, it's definitely not only possible, I think it's a great idea. And I'm telling you 100% right now, if I start again, I am going to have a combination of North American and outside of North American agent. Okay. Um, okay. So yeah, Lauren just said the call centers that do the bigger government contract made 340 million on government contract last year. That's a great, very good stat. We're actually 3 minutes into the tribe call, but because this is the last one of the year for Lauren, I'm gonna stick around for these guys about 10 more minutes, and then I'll meet you on the tribe call. Um, wow, yeah. So yeah, BPO paying $1.50 an hour. That's pretty rough. If you're paying $3, they'll be pretty happy. And I don't know how much it costs to live well, right? So the goal is to pay people as if they're living in, say, Ohio, and they're making like $40,000. That should be like sort of the baseline. You're doing pretty decent if you're in Ohio and you're making $40,000. If you're in Chicago and making 40, you gotta, really juggle. But we want to make it so that your agents do not have to juggle. So if $3 an hour does it, great. If $5 an hour does it, great. Whatever it is, either way, it's gonna be less than $15 an hour. So, Relax said I actually work from home for a telehealth provider as an intake rep. So there are some healthcare companies allowing employees to work from home. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There's definitely plenty of. Vicky Virtual. We have uh, medical and healthcare provider clients. We had clinic. We had a couple small hospitals, no big ones. So there's plenty of situations, and we are HIPAA compliant. Um, and there's actually one virtual receptionist company. I can't remember the name right now, but their niche was literally all healthcare and medical clinics and stuff. So it's not hard to be HIPAA compliant, but when it comes to the government, sometimes they can be pretty anal about it. So, okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna stick around. It's 57 minutes right now, 7:35 my time. I'm gonna have to do a hard stop at 7:45, so in 10 minutes, unfortunately. Barker asked, when did I start doing ads and what platform did I use? We started off. Our first ads were pretty much all of the ads we did were on Google, um, and we did it on Google. They were pretty simple ads. Um, I talk about it a bit more in the course, but they're pretty simple ads. And when I started doing them was, I keep saying a year and a half, and I'm hoping that's right, but it's about a year and a half then. So what I do know is that we were doing around 25,000 a month in revenue when I started running ads. So we got from 0 to 25,000 a month in revenue without running ads. And the majority of those were inbound. I did some cold calling, but that was only responsible for like 10, I think about 12 clients. And by the time we hit 25,000 a month, we were probably around 80 clients. So that's that. All right. So, Mark, thanks for reminding me. My plan for 2022. This is embarrassing, but I actually haven't thought about what my plans are very concretely for 2022. I have one sort of goal that is sort of whatever, and the goal is essentially to just have more students join the program. I'm gonna start running ads on the course. I haven't really done it yet. I did like do a quick test in January of this year, um, and went pretty good. But I never circled back around. But 2022 is time for me to circle back around. I'm gonna run ad, and so there's gonna be a lot of people joining the course next year as a result. Um, and so yeah, there's going to be some people that are launching and such. But remember, the majority of people that do these things, unfortunately, they don't take in all the info, they don't do all the steps, and they don't launch. So if you're in a situation where you're worried about whether this is going to be too competitive or whatever, the only thing that matters is that you complete the steps, launch, and then keep going until you're getting clients and profitable. Most people aren't going to do that. You can show them everything. Most people aren't going to do it. So that's one plan. The other plan is really sort of based off of what happened in terms of uh, family planning. I'll just leave it at that. And there's that. Also, going to be taking care of the dog, hoping that the dog never pees on the floor for the entirety of 2022. That would be nice. Uh, what else? Gonna do a bit more. Well, I don't know how these variants are gonna go, but it'd be nice to travel more. Um, 2020 was. I don't think there was any. Maybe a little. I can't remember. This year we did a little bit, but I'd like to be able to travel more in 2022 if it's safe. But I keep things pretty simple, and I'm excited about where things are headed. Um, I also think the staffing company is going to be growing as well, and that'll be exciting. Okay, so let me stop about this. Um, Darren asked, what's usually an ad spend budget per client? For example, how many dollars approximately to land one client approximately? So I don't know what it is now, but the last time I personally was responsible for this, right? It was around $160. So about $160 would land us a paid client. No, $160 landed us a trial, and then $300 landed us a paid client. And so what that means is that I have a client side of about 275 in revenue. And I have a client by the time I sold was about 22 months, and so yeah, we're making a tremendous amount on that spend. Okay. Oh, that's a good goal. Cut down and drastically reduce my one-time plastic use. That's awesome. Relax your minds acting about babies. We're recording. I can't talk about stuff like that, but yeah, eventually we want to do that. And Mark, thank you. Okay, Barker asked, what will I get more from the course? What I give here already has so much value. Well, the one thing I can really say, and I think Lauren can attest to that, is that one, the program, puts everything in perspective. It's everything in one space, right? When I do these sort of calls, you have to like listen to every single one of them to sort of piece things together, and it's really discombobulated, and it's not a blueprint or a framework. The course is a framework. It gives you a step by step A to Z, and it literally takes you from start to finish. I didn't leave anything out. And frankly, I get a lot more in depth when it comes to the things that I'm answering on these calls, right? I try to give surface level responses, and then sometimes I go slightly, beyond that. But the reality is that I don't hold anything back in the course. And so the value that you get there is tremendous. I'm not like a course guy. I keep saying this over and over. I'm not a course guy. I'm not someone that just created, something to make a dollar. And as far as I know, I still have the only course on this subject on the planet, at least, that's comprehensive. And so the point is that when I was developing this, I didn't have anything to go off of. And frankly, that ended up being a benefit to you guys because I was like, okay, well, if I don't have a baseline, then I'm just going to do it best as I can and really make this as best, of course, as possible. so that I can set the bar high and not have any reason for people to complain. And I think that came through. I think there's a lot of courses where people, they just create something. It basically like, a bunch of these calls is all surface level. And there's a lot of fluff to extend it. Um, I don't think there's any fluff in the course at all. I just keep going, and I just try to pound uh, nuts and bolts and value in there. I personally hate fluff. I hate when people are just shoving in time and not giving me meat and potatoes information. It's a waste of my time and energy. And frankly, I won't even finish the course and get to the meat and potatoes if there's too much fluff in between. So I want to pack it with meat and potatoes. You're not going to be wasting your time as you're watching the video. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think I've answered every question for now. And as we finish out this year, we just got a few days left. It's pretty exciting. Another thing I do want to say, I will be working on being very consistent in terms of exercise. I've been doing a daily cardio exercise challenge with my buddy for the month of December. Every single day in the month of December, we have to close all 3 of our exercise rings. See that circle there on our watch? We have to close all 3 of these rings every single day in the month of December. And so far, my buddy and I, 28 days in, have done it every day. So 3 more days, we're going to get it done. Probably going to continue that going into January. My legs are super tired and need some rest, so I don't think I'm going to do it every day. But we're certainly going to be a lot more consistent. I've got a 1,500 miles traveled on my bicycle goal. I'm going to be improving my golf game. I bought all kinds of tools and stuff for that. So that would be exciting. Okay, so yeah, I want to see people making money, Mark. That's the reality, and that's true. I'd love to be able to have some type of retreat once there's enough people that are doing their thing and making some money. That would be awesome to do some type of cool retreat. We go somewhere tropical as business owners and, just have a, call center owners retreat. That'd be cool. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. And I hate this joke, but I'll see you next year. I'll see you next year. You're not going to see me for the rest of the year. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for being on here. I appreciate you. And for those of you that came on late, this is recorded. It'll be available as soon as I end the stream. And I'll add a description to it in the next day or two. So you didn't miss anything because you'll be able to watch it later. And again, I appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Have a good week. And have a good end to 2021.